So we've made it to the end of 2024. This year has delivered some incredibly disappointing films. I talked about them yesterday. But it's also delivered some really surprising movies that came out of nowhere or which were so much better than they had any right to be. Today I'm sharing my top 10 most surprising films of 2024. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comments section. Let me know, what were the most surprising films to you? Most surprising doesn't necessarily mean one of the best films of the year, though I think some of the movies on this list are some of the best films of the year, but it's the movies that exceeded my expectations the most, whether if they came out of nowhere and I loved them, or I thought they would be good and they turned out to be fantastic, or if they're movies that had horrible marketing, but the movies themselves turned out to be really, really good. They're the movies that exceeded expectations the most. Those are the biggest surprises, and those are the ones that'll be on this list. Kicking off our top 10, The Beekeeper. Now, I enjoy Jason Statham action thrillers, but it's been several years since we've had a really good Jason Statham action thriller, and this is one that released in the month of January. There are good movies that come out in the month of January, but it is also a movie with a reputation for being a bit of a dumping ground for bad movies that studios just kind of want to get out of their system. So, when you're releasing a Jason Statham action thriller in the month of January, my expectations aren't particularly high. And then it turns out this is one of the best and most fun Jason Statham action thrillers. A big part of that is that David Ayer was the guy behind the scenes making the film, and when he hits, and you kind of give him a genre that's an easy win with an action star that's good at these movies, and you just kind of set yourself up for success. And it felt like they understood what people would want from a Jason Statham movie called The Beekeeper. That it balances that tone just right of being just a little self-aware, but taking itself seriously, delivering a consistent set of cool action sequences, great kills, nice moments of payoff. Like from the get-go, you're mad and you want those moments of payoff, and it keeps delivering them from beginning to end. It has a fun mythology of this world of beekeepers.
A beekeeper? Well, that's not good.
So just kind of add some extra layers to a story that is fairly straightforward. Put it all together, and you get a surprisingly good January action film. Number 9, The First Omen. Now, I don't really like nun horror movies. In the Conjuring franchise, I really don't like the Nun movies. When I saw the trailers for this film, there was nothing in it that particularly caught my attention or seemed interesting to me. It just looked like another super generic nun horror film. And just the concept of doing it in a prequel to The Omen, it sounded ridiculous and 40 years late. So I went into this movie like, I got to get this out of the way. This is not going to be good. And then somehow the movie pulled it off. The movie won me over. And I was like, wow, that was a surprisingly good Omen movie. That in terms of non-horror films, this is like the one that I enjoy. And what it was able to do is it actually like captured the paranoia of The Omen, and it felt like a worthy prequel that actually fleshed out the world and the events that took place before the classic original film. Even kind of beyond that, we live in a day and age where we've seen almost everything in horror movies, and this is a film that managed to find images that were like still truly shocking, where you're like, whoa, they actually went for it in the pregnancy sequences. That was gross. Wow, I can't believe they showed that. And when you're able to do that, cut through the noise and have truly shocking images in a horror film, you've actually done something quite surprising in and of itself. But beyond that, I was not interested in this movie. It seemed like a bad idea. I did not want to watch it. I thought it was pretty good. Number 8, Rebel Ridge. Now, this is the other kind of surprising film. There's the movies where you are aware of them, you've seen the trailer, and they look bad, and they surprise you by being good. And then there's the movies which you're not aware of at all. Feels like they come out of nowhere and immediately wow you and make you excited for the future of the director, the actor, something like that. That's the case with Rebel Ridge. 2 months before it came out, nobody was talking about this movie. When the trailer dropped, got a little bit of chatter, but it was only like a few weeks before the movie released. I didn't even watch the trailer. I wasn't really familiar with the lead actor, besides him having a small part in the movie Old, that he did make a mark, but it was like a small mark because he's just a small part in that film. And other than that, I hadn't heard of the guy, but I liked the genre. So I watched the movie as soon as it dropped on Netflix, and it was awesome. Like from the get-go, it was so clear that the star of this movie is a movie star. Like, this is the sort of guy you go, he has such a screen presence. He's so good. I want to see this guy in way more stuff. Not surprising. Right after this movie came out, he was cast as Green Lantern in James Gunn's DCU. It's also a movie, I watched it early in the morning by myself because I was like, oh, I guess I'll review this today. So I watched it in the morning. And as soon as I watched it, I went, oh, I need to watch that with my wife. She'll probably like this movie too. So I watched it a second time that same day, later in the day, with my wife. I don't think I did that with any other movies this year. This is the movie that made me excited enough about it that I immediately wanted to watch it with someone else. And when you do that, you've done something very surprising that's cut through and caught my attention. If you're enjoying this video and want more like it, there's a companion video over on Patreon with 6 more of the most surprising movies of 2024. If you like Sean Chandler Talks About and you want to support the channel, you want more content, consider joining over on Patreon. I have a number of exclusive videos. I have 2 different exclusive weekly live streams. One is a Q&A that goes for an hour and a half to 2 hours where I answer everybody's questions. The other is a box office show. Consider joining now. For the next couple of weeks, I've got a promo going where if you sign up for a new annual membership, you can get 25% off with promo code Sean25 for 25% off a new annual membership. So if you sign up for the lowest tier, you can get all those live streams, all those exclusive videos for a full year for under $20. And at the top tier, you can have a monthly video chat with me. We can talk about whatever you want, movies, TV, YouTube, any of that fun stuff. And if you sign up for a new annual membership with code Sean25, you can get 25% off that annual membership. The link is down below in the description with all the details. Number 7, The Substance. This is another one of those films that there wasn't any sort of buzz about the film in the months leading up to its release. They put out the trailer and there's a little bit of chatter of like, this is kind of interesting. And there's a little bit of buzz and they started doing some early press screenings and chatter started to grow that this thing's actually pretty good. And it came out right before Fantastic Fest, a genre film festival that I go to every September. And what happened is while we're at this film festival to watch movies, and people came in from out of town, a bunch of horror TikTokers came to town and were at this festival to watch movies. And one by one, every single person left the film festival to go see The Substance because they were hearing it was really good. And I was kind of taking my time. Do I want to go see it? Like body horror? I don't know. And like, what is it about? What's this movie? So eventually, there was a day where I didn't have anything major playing at the film festival. So Cody Leach and I went to go left the film festival, stopped watching movies at the film festival to go watch movies down the street. And we went to go see The Substance. And the movie was so much more than I thought that it was going to be. It is this body horror film about this substance, But it's this fascinating exploration of identity and beauty standards that is so thought-provoking while also delivering the craziest body horror that we've gotten in a very long time. And while all that wacky, crazy stuff, the third act is what so many people talk about with the movie, like one of the best scenes is just Demi Moore in a mirror getting ready for a date with someone. That she's excited to go on the date. The guy that she's going on the date with is not in her league, and he adores her for who she's been for her whole life, not just for the fame. And she's so crippled by her insecurities that she just keeps trying to look better and better and rethinking things, and ends up, like, I don't want to spoil the movie if you haven't seen it, but like, it's just this incredible scene that's so heartbreaking. And that's what is so great about the movie. It's not just the clever body horror concept. It's not just the gimmick of the movie with the two bodies. It's a really smart film that understands people and the craziness of Hollywood and even how that relates to normal people. It just has a deep understanding of humanity. And even just the central premise about how one person with the two bodies, what that would do to you and how it could crush you. Fascinating. Just a great concept that keeps you thinking about the movie after you've left it on multiple levels. Because the insane third act of the movie, you can think about that, and you can just also think about what Demi Moore goes through in the film. It works on all of those different levels, thus easily makes it onto this list. Number 6, Superman, the Christopher Reeve story. Now, as soon as you say you're making a movie about Christopher Reeve, I'm interested, and I think I'm probably very likely to enjoy whatever you're going to put out. So I wasn't surprised that I liked this movie. What was surprising is that I thought it was one of the best films of the year. It's very rare that a documentary is able to elicit the emotions that this film was able to pull out of me. That it was able to kind of tackle multiple different aspects of his life. The great aspects, the flawed aspects, and balanced them perfectly to bring out the humanity and present him as the Superman, but also just the man. In the ways that he was the superhero, that he did inspire people, that he did do incredible things, and also that he was flawed and he made mistakes and he had to learn and grow throughout his life. And the obstacles that are very relatable for all of us and the obstacles that were distinct to just his experience or people that have had similar tragedies as the one that he faced. It has all of them in there, and it tackles all of it in such a way that brings up massive emotion. So a film that I was like, oh, that looks pretty cool. And then you went, oh, wait, this thing is truly incredible in what it's able to accomplish. Kicking off our top 5, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 2. Now, last year's Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey was the target of much wrath in my worst of the year video, where I felt that movie was just a cynical cash grab exploiting copyright law in order to put a very cheap Winnie the Pooh skin on a very generic, forgettable slasher film. But credit where credit is due. They heard the feedback. They got a bit higher budget. They brought in a new writer who publicly said he did not think the first movie was very good, and they made a better film. They made something that I thought was very bad, and they went, we're going to do better this time, and they did. Credit where credit is due. This is a much better film, and this is the movie that the first film should have been. And thus, it makes it onto this list because it surprised me. Now, is it great? Is it fantastic? No. I'm not saying it's one of the best horror films of the year, but it's a lot better. And it's good enough. If you go to a Winnie the Pooh movie that's a slasher, you know you're going in for schlock fest, a movie that's inherently taking advantage of childhood innocence by having that character kill people. This is a schlocky concept. And this movie knows that, and it delivers on it, and it goes into the lore better, and it builds out the ideas more and gives an explanation for everything that actually was kind of fun. There's some cool kills in here. There's still room for improvement. Hopefully they're going to continue to learn and continue to get better. But this movie was better. Number 4, the best Christmas pageant ever. Now, I went into this one not super familiar with the book. It probably was read to me when I was in elementary school. I had very vague knowledge of the story. The movie is directed by the creator of The Chosen. I haven't watched The Chosen, so there wasn't a whole lot here that immediately had me hooked, drawing me in, super excited to check this out. And so I watched the movie, and I thought it was just such a charming and timeless Christmas story that it just felt like it came from a different era in the way the story is handled, the way the characters are handled, in just how it's such a gracious story without any cynicism is in it. It just felt like the kind of movie that you watched it and you went, this is like a new Christmas classic for our family. This is a new annual watch for our family. It was one I watched with my wife, and as soon as it ended, I just turned to her and she goes, "Oh, I loved it. I can't wait until we can watch that movie again." And we actually did watch it again just a few days later because I enjoyed it. I reached out about being able to interview the director, and I was able to. So I watched it a second time, and it was just as good, if not a little bit better, watching it that second time. One of the things my wife said just after watching the trailer for the film, she felt nostalgia for a film she hadn't seen yet.
Yeah.
How did you go about crafting a film which did kind of elicit that feeling of nostalgia without being derivative of other Christmas classics?
That might be my favorite question and or comment that I've gotten about the film. I said up front, this movie, you shouldn't be able to identify which decade it's in. Here's what we do know. It's not today. It's then. Every shot in the movie, we treated like a painting. That's what I think evokes that reaction from your wife, is from frame one, you feel like we're taking you to a place that you're not in currently, but you wish you were.
Real quick, before I give you my top 3, remember to join me down below in the comment section. Let me know what were the most surprising films for you, the movies that came out of nowhere that you loved, or the movies that looked bad to you that turned out to be surprisingly good. Also, I got more videos like this coming out over the next few days. I've already done comic book movies ranked. I've already done biggest disappointments of the year. And coming in the next couple of days, we got worst of the year, we got best of the year. And then on January 1st, I'm going to be doing a ranking of every 2024 movie that I saw. And I have a new record. This is the year where I saw the most new movies. It's over 140 new releases in 2024. So that ranking is coming on January 1st. In third place, Ultraman Rising. Now, I've been aware of Ultraman since 1993 when my family went on a trip to Hong Kong. And while there, I bought a couple of Ultraman toys. These are my actual childhood Ultraman toys that I bought, and didn't really know much about Ultraman because the TV shows in Hong Kong were not in English, but bought the toys and saw something. Shortly afterwards, they started to port over a little bit of Ultraman for US audiences. So there's this show called Ultraman Fight the Future that I watched a little bit of growing up at like 6 a.m. But I've never really been super into Ultraman. A couple years back, Shin Ultraman came out. Didn't really think anything of it. Just like, okay, that was kind of an interesting novelty, but I didn't particularly enjoy that film. And then when I saw Ultraman Rising was coming out as a Netflix original animated film, because I'm not super into Ultraman, kind of ignored it for a couple of months or several months and didn't plan on watching it until Netflix reached out about me covering the film because they had a lot of confidence in it and want to kind of do a push leading into the 4-year consideration season. And they wanted to fly me out to Skywalker Ranch to learn how the movie was made. It's like, that sounds really cool, but I don't want to do that if I don't really like the movie. Luckily, the movie was on Netflix, so I was like, okay, let me check it out. My friend Mama Geeky Tessa messaged me like, you check out the movie. You'll really like it. You definitely want to kind of go on this trip. So then I watched the movie. I was like, that was really cool. Like, it's kind of like if like the DreamWorks version of an Ultraman movie. It's not made by DreamWorks, but it's like DreamWorks, the way that they kind of do stories of, you know, How to Train Your Dragon with or even The Wild Robot, where these unexpected parenting stories and mentorship stories, except with the Ultraman lore. So I watched it. I was like, oh, that was so cool. And then I was able to go to Skywalker Ranch as well as Lucasfilm to learn how they made the movie and then talk to the director, the writer, and several other people that worked on the movie to figure out how they crafted this very interesting film that's a parenting story, it's a cute animal story, it's a superhero story, it's an Ultraman story, all kind of at the same time with its own kind of unique little vibe to it, and how they did the music, how they brought in certain stylistic choices from anime and manga into this Ultraman film. And so it just made an accessible version of Ultraman, where I thought Shin Ultraman was too weird and not accessible enough. This was that version that, like, you could just watch it without any knowledge of Ultraman and go, that was really cool. That was a lot of fun. And it has heart to it. It's cool action, kaiju fights, and a lot of heart.
One thing I enjoyed about this is that it did pull all those outside influences. What were some film influences that were outside of the expected for a project like this?
Kramer versus Kramer was a big one. But to me, I see that film as about a love story between a parent and child, a father who's not really being a father, who is forced to fall in love with the son, and the son falls in love with him. And that makes them both better people. And it actually resolves the conflict.
Our runner-up, Transformers 1. I thought the first trailer for this movie looked pretty awful. It came off like a bad comedy that didn't capture the characters or the world of Transformers at all. It felt like they were converting it into a dumb kids movie. So I really did not like the first trailer for this film. And then they put out a second trailer, and it was quite a bit better. That captured a little bit more of the scope of the story and had more of the serious aspects to it. And they started doing fan screenings like 2 months before the movie came out, and the buzz was actually pretty good. So I wasn't quite sure what to make of, like, that first trailer looked really, really bad. The movie itself was really, really good. And this is one of the worst marketed films of the entire year, where they picked the totally wrong details to zero in on with the trailers and made their movie feel much more juvenile and stupid than it actually was. At its core, it's the Transformers movie that so many of us have been waiting for a long time, that's exclusively about the Transformers, and it's about the Cybertron and what took place on that planet that led to the events of them ending up on Earth. And they're able to tell a story about the early versions of Optimus Prime and Megatron, who they were beforehand, their personality differences, and how they reacted to the realities of Cybertron in different ways that set them on such different paths. And tell that in a movie that does have humor, that can be silly, but it's also able to be serious and tell a story that feels truly epic. And when you put it all together, what a bad job of marketing. What a refreshing, fun, new Transformers movie that really built out the lore in a great way. But coming in at number 1, Wicked. Now, this might be a little bit of a surprise for some of you because this was your most anticipated movie of the year or one of your most anticipated film. You're a fan of the musical, you just loved the trailers, thus you were excited for this movie and were not surprised at all that you liked it. That wasn't my experience. I've never seen the Wicked musical. The trailers didn't really do anything for me. The concept didn't seem particularly interesting to me. In particular, that we have a lot of movies like this, like let's retell the story from the villain's perspective and let's show how they're misunderstood. I understand this predates the movie trend doing that, but this movie version is coming out after that has become a cliche in the world of movies. So I just wasn't very interested in the film. And most of my interest was simply because my wife and daughter love Wicked, so they were excited about it. That meant I was excited for it. So I went to go see it actually with my sister because there was a civil war in my house where my daughter was like not okay with the fact that my wife was going to go see it early with me at the press screening and I couldn't take both of them. So my wife had to bow out, took my sister to go see it, and it absolutely won me over on every single level, where almost from the very beginning, it just felt like such an immersive film, where maybe not since Harry Potter has it felt like a movie just took me into this fantasy world and it just felt developed and lived in, and I got to spend time in this place. The sets looked massive and practical. The way it's shot, there's so much detail in these musical numbers, the dance sequences. There's so many people involved. There's little moving things in the background, and they're staged and shot to perfection, where it's just incredible how much is going on and how good all of it is. But beyond having great music and great musical numbers and cool production design, the story itself, the characters and what's being explored had way more nuance than I was expecting. It had more to say than I thought that it was going to, and did a better job of convincing me that maybe The Wicked Witch wasn't so bad after all. So put it all together, you have a movie that was not my thing at all. In fact, right before it came out, I was not crazy about the Singing Witch TV show, so I was not excited about the Singing Witch movie, and the Singing Witch movie was absolutely able to win me over. So for me, it was the most surprising film of the year and comes in at number 1. If you enjoyed this video, remember I'm doing a bunch of these end of the year videos. I've already done comic book movies ranked, as well as most disappointing films, best and worst movies coming in the next few days, as well as my ranking of all over 140 2024 movies that I saw. Thank you so much for watching, and keep talking movies and TV too much. Bye.